The king never expected that even sacrificing his own life could not harm the Dragon of Calamity in the slightest, but the protagonist slashed it away with a single sword strike, and in the ensuing battle, whether it was the dragon's sweeping tail or its indestructible claws, all were parried by the protagonist one by one. Even the dragon breath that could turn the continent into scorched earth, the protagonist could still deflect with a single sword strike. Finally, the dragon bowed its head before the protagonist. The ferocity in its eyes gradually faded. It looked very much like a loyal husky. It is worth mentioning, this was a female dragon. If it could transform into a human, it would definitely be another addition to the harem. However, just 2.5 minutes earlier, everyone in the capital was terrified of this dragon. Its massive body and terrifying aura constantly signified its identity as the Dragon of Calamity. The last time it appeared was 150 years ago. Just one dragon breath destroyed a country. At the same time the dragon appeared, strong magical reactions were detected all over the capital. Now the only person who could stop the dragon was the king at the top of the central tower. Meanwhile, the protagonist and his party had just returned to the outskirts of the capital and saw the Dragon of Calamity. Lin understood that her father would definitely choose to resist, but there was no time to go back and support him. However, the protagonist proposed a solution, which was to use the acceleration magic they used against the Goblin Emperor before. First, Ines used a shield to form a cylindrical barrel. Then Lin cast various enhancement spells. This setup almost scared the protagonist. Why was it different from last time? Last time, a single spell almost knocked him out. Now they directly used a six-fold cast. Just after using it, Rollo found that the protagonist was reduced to ashes. Back in the capital, the king thought that with his strength, he could buy a few minutes for the citizens, but the dragon immediately used its strongest dragon breath, Parry. This not only stunned everyone, even the dragon itself was bewildered. When it came to its senses, it realized that such a weak human had knocked it away. In the dragon's eyes, the law of the jungle is absolute. It decided to teach that weak human a lesson. The next second, its massive tail swept towards the protagonist, but the dragon was surprised to find that the protagonist used the lowest level of parry and knocked it hard to the ground. However, from the protagonist's perspective, he had almost died just now. Died from Lin's terrifying acceleration magic. Thanks to Lin's magic, compared to almost dying from the magic, the protagonist felt that the dragon wasn't that formidable. At least he could deflect it with parry. At the same time, Lin and her party had also arrived at the capital on horseback, but they encountered 3 goblin emperors. Although these were smaller in size, they were still exceptionally powerful creatures. In the midst of their panic, Lin remembered the protagonist's teachings. In front of her were just 3 ordinary goblins, facing the 3 goblins charging at her. Lin first used magic to slow their attack. At this moment, Rollo also helped, forcing the goblins to be controlled for a few seconds. In the center of the capital, the protagonist's battle continued. The dragon was almost going crazy now. Its indestructible claws and scales were gradually becoming scarred from the continuous parry. In contrast, the protagonist's sword was not damaged at all, so the dragon decided to use dragon breath from the air to the ground, but it was once again easily deflected by the protagonist. Parry. This parry made the dragon feel defeated. Dragons are inherently proud creatures. The powerful Dragon of Calamity even more so. It was confident in its own strength, but now this pride was being shattered by the protagonist. At this moment, it realized that the true weakling was itself, looking at its easily severed claws, and the strong figure standing beside it. The dragon's killing intent gradually faded, and it assumed a submissive posture before the protagonist. The protagonist also felt like he was dreaming. He had actually defeated the dragon. In the stories his father told him, the hero defeated the dragon. The dragon's scales, claws, fangs, and bones brought great wealth to the local residents. At this moment, as long as he killed the dragon, he could also be called a hero in the story. But looking at the dragon in front of him, the protagonist finally put down his sword.